Hello everyone, welcome again to another video. So today we will be working on this hexagon shaped beaded bag. Before I start anything, thank you to all my subscribers and all members to my channel. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your love and support. Okay, let's get right into the video. On my table here, I have here 8mm bead. This is pink and blue bead. And I have my beading wire. This is how it's look like in 50 pound. This is how it's looking like fishing line, 50-pound fishing line. And of course I have my little plier here to cut off all loose thread there. Now over here we are going to start with 5 bead. So I thread 5 bead on the line and I'm going to cross the other end of the line into the last bead. So put 5 bead on the line and cross the last one with the other line and pull. Now you have this ring and this is how it's going to look like. So now I have 2 on each line and I'm going to cross both ends of my line into the 5th one and pull this one like this. Pull. This is how it's looking like. And I'm going to repeat the same thing again. I'm going to put 2 on the line, 2 bead on each line, and I'm going to cross both ends of my line into the 5th one. Pull down like this. I'm going to repeat it one more time. 2 on the line, then cross both ends of your line into the 5th bead. And this is how it's looking like, and this is something that you should have. Okay, this is how you're gonna have. This is 4 rings we made so far. 4 rings and another one. So we are going to make this long. We are going to make 10. Continue to make 10 of these. So here I made 7 so far and I'm going to make it 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is 10 rings in all. And I'm going to end this row with 5 bead. So I put 3 bead on this line and 1 over here, and I'm going to cross my line into this bead and pull. Like this. Okay, so we started with 5 and we end 5. So we start with 5, end here 5. We are going to continue on this line. 5 bead, add 5 bead to the line and cross the other line into the last bead and pull this line into the next 2 bead. Go to the next 2 bead, and this is the second one. And the number of bead I'm going to add to this line, 3 bead. I'm going to go through the next 2 bead. This is the first bead, and I'm going to go through the second one too. And I'll be adding 3 bead. Into the next 2 bead. I'm adding 3 bead over here too. 3 bead. So into the next 2 bead. This is how we are going to continue. Go to the next 2 bead, Go through 2 bead and add 3 bead to your other line and work it to the end. So I'm adding 3 bead over here and continue to the end. Now I'm going to go through the next 2 bead over here. My line is going through the 2 bead on the end, and I'm adding 3 bead as usual. Now this line into the last bead on the top. This bead over here, that's where I put my line through. So this line, the same line, I'm adding 3 bead, and this one 1 bead to complete the second row. I'm going to flip it over. This line, I'm going to flip it over, okay? Because I'm right-handed, so this line, I'm going to add 5 bead. 5 bead. Now I'm going to go through the next 2 bead. This line into the next 2 bead. This line 3 bead. I'm going to go to the next 2 bead again. We are going to repeat the same thing we did for the first, second row on this row too. So I'm going through these 2 bead and I'll be adding 3 bead. I'm going to go through the next 2 bead into the next 2 bead. We continue like that to the end of the row. Three bead. Into the next 2 bead. Just go to the next 2 bead, add 3. Now I'm coming to the end again and I'm going to go through this 2 bead over here. The last 2 bead, and I'll be adding 3 bead. Now again we are going to go through the last bead, 1 bead on the top, this one. Go through that bead over there and the same line, this line 3 bead. And this one 1 bead. This line I added 3 bead, okay? 3 bead. And this one 1 bead. Now we are going to start with the 4th row again. I flip it over. And I'm going to start with the 4th row. So this line 5 bead. And into the next 2 bead. I'll be adding this line 3 bead. Cross the other line into that and pull. Now this line again into the next 2 bead. We are repeating the same thing for the first, second, third row. Add 3 beads. Now go the same way and continue to make 5 rows. So here is our 5th row. This is how the shape is looking like. This is the shape, and we made 5 rows. This is the 5th row. We are going to start the 6th row too, okay, on the new line. So our new row starts with 4 beads. And I'm going to go to the next 2 beads. The number of beads I'll be adding 3. 3 beads. Into the next 2 beads. Three beads. Into the next 2. This line, 3 beads. To continue the same way to the end. So this is the bead. We are going to go through the last one over here, and I'll be adding this line 3 beads. To complete the 6th row. This is how it's looking like. I flip it over. This line into the next bead. And I'll be adding 4 beads. And I'm going to go through the next 2 beads and add 3 beads. So the same way we did for the previous row, we are going to add the same number of beads and continue to the end. Then this time we are going to continue to build on this one 6 times. This is our 2nd row. And I'm going to continue this line into the next bead. This line into the next bead. And add 4 beads on this line. I'm going to go to the next 2 beads. Like how we are weaving it, I'm going to do the same thing over here too. Add 3 beads. So continue to the end and build on it 6 times. So this is the shape. This is how it's looking like, and we are going to continue to build on it 6 times. You see, continue to build on yours 6 times. And this is how the shape should look like. If you are done, this is something that you should have. This is how it's going to look like. This is how it's going to look like. And this one we are going to build. This is the edge, and we are going to build around it. and this is what I'll be using. I'll be using this white faceted bead. It's also in 8mm, so it's white. I'm going to use it on the edge of the bag, around it. So I'm going to start. This is the fresh line that I've cut, and I'm going to go through these 2 beads over here. I'm pulling my line through these 2 beads. Let me turn it well. We are going to go around the edge and weave around the edge. So this line, 3 beads. I add 3 beads to my line to start with, and I'm going to go through this and this one, these 2 beads. So the number of beads I'm going to add, 3 beads. I'm going to the next 2 beads. Three beads. So over here too, we are going to go through 2 beads and add 3 beads all around the edges. Into the next 2 beads, continue the same way around the edge. Let me do this one more time, then we do the rest of camera. 3 beads. So continue to do yours, and I'll also do mine off camera. Now see you later. This is how it's supposed to look like. If you're done, this is how it's going to look like. So this is the end. I'm going to go through the last 2 beads over here. The last 2 beads, okay? Remember the last 2 beads. So I'm going to go through the last 2 beads. I go through the last 2 beads. And the number of beads I'm going to add to this line, 2 beads. And that ends the first row. So this ends the first row. We are going to continue. This is how it's looking like. This is the edge. Round, we have the same thing at the edge too. This is how both edges are looking like. Now we are going to continue with our second row. So my line, I'm going to go through the next bead on top, and this line, 4 beads. Now I'm going to go through the next 2 beads, and the number of beads I'll be adding, 3 beads. This line to the next 2. We are going to continue the same. I'm going to continue going to 2 beads and adding 3 beads. 3 beads on my left line. So continue to make yours, continue round until you complete the second row. And now we are coming to the end of the second row. So this is how it's looking like. So this line, I'm going to go to the next 2 beads. Go to the next 2 beads. And add 3 beads to your right line. And cross the left line into the right line. So I'm going to go to the next bead. and I'll be adding 4 bead on this line. 4 bead. Now into the next 2 bead, I'll be adding 3 bead. The same way we did the first and second row, we are going to continue the same way again to complete the 3rd row. This is how it's looking like. Continue round with the 3rd row to the end. So this is the end of the 3rd row, and I'm going to go through this bead over here. I'm going to pull my line through this last bead at the end, and I'll be adding 3 bead on my right line and 1 on my left line. This is how it's looking like. So we are going to continue with the 4th row. This is the 4th row that we've started. I'm going to go through the next 2 bead round until you complete the 4th row too. So here we are on the end of the 4th row, and I'm going to complete 3 bead. Into the next last bead, add 4 bead. This is how it's looking like. Now the 4th row is complete. I'm just going to weave the rest of this line into the bead and pull, making sure it's well secured enough before I cut it off. I'm just weaving the rest of the line into this bead. So over here, when you look at the end, this one, we have to complete it. We have to complete the middle, because we have to level both ends to be equal. So here, go through the middle 3 bead over there. 1, 2, 3 bead. Go through the 3 bead, add 3 bead to the line, and complete that middle so that both ends should be equal. It should look equal this way. Okay, this is how it's looking like. Now we have both ends looking the same. This is how it's looking like. The rest of the line, I'm just going to weave it back into the bead before I trim it off. So this is how it's looking like. This is how the bag is looking like. And this is the end too. It's equal enough. It's all equal. This is the second one we've created. We are just going to, this is how I'm going to put it on it. The same shape, okay? The same shape. So we are just going to put position on it. Position it very good on this one. And then attach it to the base, the first one that we make. This is where my line is. It's in this bead over here. I'm going to add 1 bead to my line. And I'm going to go through, this is where the base is. So we are going to use this at the top of the bag. So I'm going to go to these 2 bead over here. Go to these 2 bead. Pull your thread and add 1 bead. Take one bead and cross both ends of your line into the bead. I'm crossing both ends of my line into this bead. I'm going to go through the next 2 beads with my line into the next 2 beads. This thread went under the bead, so I have to pull it up before I go through the bead. I'm going through the second bead. Sometimes this line can tangle on you, so the other line I'm going through the next 2 beads too. And I'm adding 1 bead. I'm crossing both ends of my line into this bead. This line into the next 2 beads. I'm crossing my line into this bead and pull. So this line into the next 2 beads like this. Then we cross both ends of the line into the bead and pull. Now into the next 2 beads again. So I'm going through the next 2 beads and I'll continue around the circle until it's complete. And here I'm almost halfway done. So this is how it's looking like. This is how the bag is taking shape like. I'm going to go around until I complete it. And this is something you should have if you complete. Okay, this is something that you should have. This is the side, how it's taking the hexagon shape. This is the side, and this is how the bag is looking like. If you have to have something like this, this is what you should have if it's completed. So on the side, I come to the next 2 beads and I'm going to go through the last 2 beads. You have 3 beads left on top, and I'm going to go through the last 2 beads over here. So this line into the next 2 beads. I'm going to go through the next 2 over here, the last 2 beads. And the other line, this into the next bead. Go through this edge bead over here and pull. This is how it should look like. And the number of beads we need, 1 bead to complete this row. Now the bag is complete. This is how it's looking like, and this is something that you should have like this. Okay, it should look like this. If you complete the side, both sides should be equal looking. So these lines, I'm just going to weave it back into the bag. Make sure it's well secured enough before I trim it off. I'm just going through the rest of the bead. This is how it's looking like. This is the bag that we have. So we are just going to attach the handle to it. This is how it's looking like. And this is my handle. I make 2 handles because I want to put 2 straps. I want to do double handle on it. So this is a double handle we are going to make over here, and I'm going to show you how we are going to attach it. So get your fresh line, and on the side, these 3 beads over here in the corner, we are going to put the line. This is the line, okay? I'm going to pull it through these 3 beads over here in the corner. This is 1. I'm going to go through the second one. and the third bead like this. Now the edge bead of the handle, pull both lines through the edge bead over there, pull it across into the edge bead and pull tight. Then we are going to use the line to go through all the 3 beads again to make sure it's well secured, because I want this handle to stand and to be firm, not flimsy. So I'm just going to go through all the bead over there, pull, and the last one over here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie both ends because I have them together at one place. I'm going to tie them over here, make sure they are strong enough and secure that handle. So I'm tying this line over here, and I'm going to weave the rest of the line into the handle. I'm weaving it back into the handle to make sure it's secured. Weave it the rest of the line, then I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to do the second one to the same. I'm going to repeat the same one over there. Let me cut a line. So on the other side, I'm going to go through these 3 beads in the corner over here. 2, 3. And I'm going to pull both ends of my line, these 3 beads, okay, these 3 beads over here. So these 2 lines, I'm going to cross it into the edge bead of my handle. I'm going to cross both ends of my line into it. Cross both ends into it. And now use one line again to go round into the 3 bead that we entered first. I'm going to go round again to make sure it's well secured. I'm going to pull tight and tie over here. Tie both lines, then the rest of the line you weave it back into the bead. Make sure it's well firm and secured and trim it off. Weave it back into the line, the bead or the handle. This is how it's looking like. First handle is done, and I'm going to attach the second handle too into the corner because we are doing double handle over here. And this is how the bag look like. Very beautiful, very cute. You can take it anywhere. I like double-handed on the bag. So we are going to put a little flap on it. This is the inside of the bag. You can put your purse, your key. It can hold a lot. This bag is deep. It's very big. This is a middle size. This is medium size bag. So I'm going to make a flap on it. We are going to start into these 2 beads over here. I'm going to put my line through these 2 beads, and I'm going to start with 4 beads. And I'm going to go through into the next 2 beads. The same way we weave the bag, we are going to do the same thing over here. Go to the next 2 beads and add 3 beads. I'm going to the next 2 and I'm going to add 3 beads. So continue to the end. We are going to go to the next two. And I added 3 beads over here. I'm going to go to the next 2 beads again. These 2 beads. Three beads. So the last 2, you're going to put the line through the last 2 beads. And we are going to turn again over here to make the second row. This line, 3 beads. I'm going to walk 1 step back with this bead, with this line into this bead. This line, 4 beads. Now into the next 2 beads. Three beads. So the second line we are going to continue like that. I'm going to go to the next 2, continue the same width that we weave for the bag, the same thing. Go through 2 beads and add 3. I'm going to go to the next 2. I'm going to go through the next 2 beads. And I'll be adding this line, 3 beads. Now this line, I'm walking 1 step back. So go through this bead over here, and this line, 4 beads. So we can start the 3rd row. And this is how we are going to continue adding the row to the end. Next 2 beads, I'm going through the next 2 beads over here. 3 beads. So continue adding until you complete it. This is the shape that you will get if you complete. So this is the shape of the flap on the bag. The rest of this line, I'm just going to weave it back. This is the last one I put on the end. You add 3. 3 is the last bead you're going to add to the end, okay? So the rest of the line, I'm just going to weave it back into the bag and trim it off. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in my next video. Please don't forget to subscribe and share this video to friends and family. Thank you.